James. I'm a member of Cardiff Mixed Speakers Club, and my speech is entitled Play to Your Strengths. Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, play to your strengths. That sounds like an obvious thing, isn't it? A piece of management speak, which people automatically know and everyone does without even thinking about it. But is that necessarily true, I wonder? Let me ask you a question. If I were to ask you, do you every day do the thing that you do best? Would you be able to say yes? Perhaps. But then if I said, most of every day, do you do the thing that you do best? I think most of us would have to say no. And we all know people who fret in their jobs, who seem so unsuited to their jobs. How do they end up there, we ask ourselves, and we often wish that they would go somewhere else where they might be a bit more suited. And maybe, sometimes, people even think that about us. So what goes wrong? Well, perhaps like most things, it begins early on. Imagine it. A child comes home from school and tells his or her expectant parents, I got 3 B's and an F. What does the average parent say? That's right. Oh dear, you got an F in geography? No one in our family has ever got an F in geography. We'll have to give you special tuition, special classes, get Uncle Joe to come down to teach you about geography. And so it turns out that people are trained up to do things that they don't like or they're not good at. It's been found by scientific research that some people in call centres are so bad at their jobs, it would be better for everybody, even the call centres, if they simply weren't there. And they've had training. But if you don't like talking and you're not any good at it, training will have no effect. It turns out if you want someone to climb a tree, you need a squirrel, not a turkey. And the whole question is, how do we recognize the squirrels? Sometimes we find it difficult, even later on in life. Just a few years ago, a young man in North Wales brought up on a sheep farm in a place called the Blue Gorge, or Pant Glas in Welsh, was asking his careers advisor what he should do. He was a huge young man, 6'3", very strong and sporty. Rugby league, most people would have said up in North Wales, but his careers advisor was a little bit more flexible, and he advised him to become a fireman. Should be good at that, he said. You're strong, but well, there just is one thing. I see you've done a bit of singing, you know. I mean, just give it a try, first of all, and see if that works out for you. We know that young man now as Bryn Terfel, the world's greatest bass baritone, the true Prince of Wales. He might have become a really good fireman after special training to overcome any weaknesses he might have had, like a fear of heights. And being a fireman is a really worthwhile job, and his powerful voice would have been tremendously useful on those days when they'd accidentally left the megaphone behind. But, as we know, he was made to do something else. And you know, bad advice at the beginning of our careers is not the only reason for not playing to our strengths. When we are established and doing well, another factor can take over, the Peter principle. Simply stated, this says that if you do well in a job at a particular level, you get promoted. If you do well in that job, you get promoted. Until, at some point, you don't get promoted because you're no good at the job. So everybody ends up in jobs that they're not suited for. And we all know cases where that has happened as well. I know someone who was a good teacher. He was a bit of a maverick, but the kids loved him. And then they put him into management, a maverick in management. And it didn't work. He soon cracked up, and everyone had lost. Most of us know our failures too well. What about our strengths? There are lots of ways to find out about our strengths, but they're a little bit scary. They mainly involve asking other people. You have to ask somebody, what would you say my strengths are? And your life hangs on a thread. They might say, strengths. But you know they won't. They won't. If they're kind people. No, they won't. They will see things in you that no one has told you because you haven't asked. They will see things in you that can be brought out and made something of. And there are lots of tests out there, all sorts of tests to help us find out what our strengths really are. And you know, it's not just about doing well, it's not just about being in a job and performing well. It's about becoming more alive. There was a great old saint who said many, many centuries ago, the glory of God is a man or woman fully alive. So, let's come alive. Let's play to our strengths. Let's encourage others to do the same.